Charles Manski, Board of Trustees Professor, Department of Economics and Institute for Policy Research, Northwestern University, United States. BBVA Foundation Frontiers of Knowledge Award in Economics, Finance and Management. How has your work reshaped the way in which economists deal with uncertainty in their research?
Well, very often economists don't deal with uncertainty at all. They would rather provide firm conclusions, to be able to make statements like research has shown that this holds or that holds, or that this is a good public policy or that this is not. And they often shy away from uncertainty, thinking that it will make them look less scientific. Sometimes economists do express uncertainty. When they do it generally through probabilities, saying there's some chance that this will happen, some chance that something else will happen. They may say, for example, regarding future global warming of the climate, they might say that there's a 10% chance that temperature will rise by 2 degrees or by 3 degrees, or 40% chance of something else. My own research focuses on more difficult situations where you can't put probabilities on things at all, and we just say, we don't know what's going to happen. It could be this or it could be that. We call that ambiguity, or we call that deep uncertainty, and those are tougher problems to analyze than ones in which you can use probabilities.
What have been the fundamental contributions of your work to the analysis and implementation of public policy in conditions of uncertainty?
What we want to do, what we have to do, is to go beyond certain just verbal descriptions of uncertainty, as I gave you in my last answer. You can't just say something is very uncertain or not very uncertain. These are difficult public policy problems, and what you really need to do is to quantify it. And in general, what economists do is we use mathematics and we try to quantify what we mean by uncertainty. What that implies in my own research is that instead of providing a point estimate of some quantity, like what will be tax revenue under some income tax policies, something like that, that I might give a bound, an interval, to say it will be between this and this. And the width of that bound is going to express how much uncertainty there is. The bound may be very narrow in saying you can know a lot, or the bound may be very wide in saying we really don't know a lot about something. And I could give so many examples. I talked about climate policy just a moment ago. We could give a bound on what the mean temperature of the planet Earth is going to be in 2100. It may be just a little bit warmer than now or a lot warmer than now, and that's the way we'll express things in terms of that bound.
What has your work contributed to the evaluation of medical treatments and clinical decision-making?
Well, you might think that medical treatment and clinical decision-making would be a strange topic for an economist to study, but actually there's very much in common with studying public policy. A medical doctor is basically acting as what we call in economics a social planner on behalf of the patient. The medical doctor is trying to do the best thing possible for the patient, whether the patient suffers from heart disease or cancer or diabetes or whatever. But there's uncertainty everywhere in medicine. You have uncertainty in predicting the risk of illness. Does this patient have cancer or not? Is the patient likely to get a heart attack or not in the next 10 years? And then you have to make treatment decisions in the face of all that uncertainty. And medical doctors really try to do a good job dealing with patients, but it's difficult for them to deal with uncertainty. And very often they have these situations of ambiguity or deep uncertainty that I mentioned, where medical doctors really can't put probabilities on things. So it turns out that the same methodological research that I do on public policy is actually applicable to medical decision-making as well.
How has your research contributed to analysing and understanding the importance of subjective expectations in economic decision-making?
So up to now, what we've been talking about is how do actual policymakers or medical clinicians and so on, how do they deal with uncertainty in their work? But just ordinary people have to deal with uncertainty as well all the time. In my PhD dissertation, I studied how students choose to go to college. And there's a lot of uncertainty for students who are finishing high school in trying to decide, should I go to this college or that college? Should I major in this, in economics or in physics or in music or whatever? Or maybe I shouldn't go to college at all. I should go directly into the labor force. So ordinary people have to deal with uncertainty day after day. And it's very important for us, because as economists, we study the choices that people actually make. We want to understand how they make decisions and how do they deal with uncertainty. So this is an area of empirical research that I do, is to actually interview people, and we try to learn how they deal with uncertainty, whether it's through probabilities or without probabilities.
In what ways would you say that, as the award citation states, your work has made you a critical conscience of measurement in the social sciences?
It's a kind of superlative term to be called a critical conscience, but I think I know what they had in mind. Econometricians like myself, we tend to be very skeptical. There's a lot of hype in research. There's a lot of marketing that goes on where people, as I said right at the beginning, economists try to draw very strong conclusions that may not actually be very believable. And what econometricians like myself often do is to say, hold on, wait a minute, you can't draw that conclusion. If you draw that conclusion, you really have no basis for it. And so we're skeptical. And someone could interpret that in saying that we're a critical conscience, that we're holding people back and saying, don't make too much of your research, be careful, because it's very important that the research is believable. And that's particularly important with public policy, because public policy innately is heavily political, and people are going to have different positions on it. And it's extremely important that people accept the research and not think that someone's just making it up.